Hello, I'm William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and in this video I'd like to continue my study with students in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy's course on Aesop's Fables, which we study as a beginning of the study of moral philosophy in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. And if you're stumbling across this video or just happen to watch this video, I'd like you to know that you're welcome to study with us in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy for free. All of our courses are available online for free, and you can find out more about that at classicalliberalarts.com. In this video, we're going to study Aesop's fable titled The Fatal Courtship. The Fatal Courtship. And it's important for us to remember the fable that we just studied in the previous lesson, which was the fable of the lion and the mouse, because those same characters are used in this fable here, in the Fatal Courtship. Just to remind you quickly, in the fable of the lion and the mouse, the lion chose to be merciful to the mouse and let him live at one point when he could have killed him. And then the lion was trapped in a net by hunters, and that little mouse came and was able to set the lion free by nibbling through the net, which the lion couldn't get out from. Those characters continue in this fable here, the Fatal Courtship. So let's read this fable together. Pay attention to the details of the fable. Consider the moral of this fable, and then why Aesop would choose to use the characters that he does to tell us this story, to teach us this lesson. This is the fable of the Fatal Courtship. It is said that the mouse, spoken of in the last fable, was so emboldened by the offers of friendship made to him by the lion in return for his assistance, that the mouse asked for the hand of the lion's daughter in marriage. The lion, amused at the request, good-humoredly told the mouse he should plead his own cause. And so the lion called the young lioness, his daughter, to come to him. And she, bounding forward heedlessly, did not see her little lover, who was running to meet her, and one of her paws falling upon him, he was crushed to pieces. This is the fable of the Fatal Courtship. And before we get into the fable, let me just make sure that the meaning of the title is clear. The Fatal Courtship. Fatal means to be deadly, and courtship is a type of relationship. When a young man and a young woman want to get to know each other because they may consider being married one day, the relationship that they have may be called a courtship. And a courtship is where, as I said, two young people, with the permission of their parents, get together to spend time together, to get to know each other. And this is called courtship. Some people refer to this as dating, but usually dating is more of a private relationship that doesn't necessarily have the approval of parents. And dating isn't necessarily good, whereas courtship is intended to be a good and healthy way for young men and women to meet and get to know each other before they commit to any serious relationship. So the Fatal Courtship is a courtship or relationship that turns out to be deadly. And we read of that in the fable here. So the fable begins by telling us that after that event where the mouse helped the lion to escape from the trap, the lion and the mouse became friends, and the lion extended his friendship to the mouse and offered to be buddies. And the mouse, being so excited and so, it says emboldened, that means filled with boldness because of this opportunity to be friends with a lion, decided to try and make good use of this friendship and asked that since they're such good friends now, whether the lion might consider allowing the mouse to court his daughter. And so the lion, it says, amused at the request because it was a ridiculous request, thought it would be funny, called his daughter, the lioness, out to hear what he had to say. And when she came out, it says, she, bounding forward heedlessly, that means she wasn't paying attention. There was no way for her to expect something like this. She might have heard or seen her father, the lion, and heard him call to her, and she just ran outside to talk to him, paying attention to him. And she, bounding forward or leaping forward without paying any attention to what might be around, did not see her little lover who was running to meet her, and one of her paws falling upon him, he was crushed to pieces. And so this courtship, or this idea of this courtship, turned out to be fatal for this little mouse. It's interesting that he's killed under the hand of a lion when that's actually the danger that he escaped from in the other fable. So we see here this fable, the fatal courtship between the lion and the mouse, and we have to ask the question, what is the moral lesson? What is the moral of this fable? What's the general moral lesson that Aesop seeks to teach us through this fable? And what we see is, remember, when we walk through these fables, I always encourage you to consider the story through the eyes of the different characters, because the moral lessons may be different based on whose eyes we're looking through. I think it's pretty obvious that the intended main character of this fable is the mouse, and his behavior is intended to teach us the main moral of this story. So let's look at this story through the eyes of the mouse. He receives mercy from this lion and is very thankful. He sees the lion in trouble and feels obliged to return the favor and help the lion in his time of trouble, because the lion had been merciful to him. He goes and does what he can and is able to actually save the lion and rescue him from the net. And the lion then offers to him friendship. And you can just imagine this little mouse being so excited to have this opportunity to be friends with a big, powerful lion. And just as far as this mouse knows, everything's going well for him. His life is filled with good luck at this moment, and he's sort of carried away by that luck. And he decides, hey, let's just go for it. Let's just keep riding this wave of good luck and see what else we might find. And so he says, hey, you know what? I need a wife, and hey, lion, since we're friends, you've got a daughter. How about letting me court your daughter? And this mouse, caught up in his good luck, asks or seeks for something, and in this request goes too far. He goes too far, and in an unexpected accident is crushed by this lioness. And this is our fable. And we can see there that the moral is that when we do have success, we need to go forward carefully. We need to realize that when God grants us success in one thing, it doesn't mean that that success is going to extend forever. And if we don't temper ourselves, if we don't consider the importance of contentment, and be thankful for what we've gained, be thankful for our success that we've enjoyed. We may go too far and find that our luck runs out and run into the opposite. We may actually run into something like a fatal courtship. Now, it's very difficult to avoid this error. I've made this error in my own life. It's very difficult to make this error because, especially when we're young and getting started, God may grant us success, and we feel like we're riding this wave of good fortune and success. We feel like everything we do is blessed and everything we touch prospers. And we really don't know where we should expect the end to be, or whether God may just continue leading us to greater and greater success. It's hard to know where the end of our success will be found, and it's hard to avoid this error. It may even be impossible to avoid this error, and we may really not want to avoid this error because we may want to know where the limit is. How do I know what I might do with God's help and with God's blessing? If I can do more, then I'd like to do more. If there are more opportunities ahead of me, and it's just a matter of me being willing to pursue them, well, I'd like to pursue them. And we often have that attitude, especially when we're enjoying success. And then we finally run into the end of our luck. And sometimes that can be a very painful lesson. And we have to humble ourselves, backtrack a little bit, and settle down where we belong. And like I said, I've made that mistake in my own life. I think it's a very difficult mistake to avoid, and I don't necessarily know that it's a mistake that we should desire to avoid. Because it's good for us to know where our limits are so that we can actually rest and really be content where we are and not be tormented by thoughts of whether we could or should try to do more. So this lesson gives us an extreme and shocking example that provides us with a warning to be careful. And yet I think it's simply that. I think it's simply a warning of the possible danger that when we're riding a wave of good luck and all is going well, as we continue to take steps forward, we should do so carefully. Make sure you're braced with every step, because you don't know what's going to come, because your luck may come to an end and you find the limit of that success, and you need to be able to make sure that you can return to safety when that end is found, and that you don't get stuck like the mouse here with no way to go back to safety. So it's a helpful lesson, but I think an extreme lesson intended to give us an extreme illustration to guide our behavior. So I think that's the real moral of the story, that when your luck prospers, when everything seems to be going well for you, be careful that you don't go too far. There's a story in ancient Rome that the emperors, or the generals actually, when they would come into Rome after a successful contest in battle, they'd come and they'd be honored with a triumph. They'd come through Rome with a glorious parade and all kinds of honors, and people would be celebrating. It was said that there would be a man who would stand behind the successful general. And as the general was brought through the city with all of this celebration and glory, the man would whisper in the general's ear and say, "Remember that thou art but a man." He would remind him of this so that the man wouldn't become too filled with pride and go crazy with that glory and go too far and get himself into trouble. And we see that in many people in the ancient world. They just go crazy with their lust for power and glory to the point where they destroy themselves. We might consider Alexander the Great to be a good example of that. But in Rome, it was said that the generals actually had a servant whose job it was to continually remind them to be careful and not get carried away in their pride. And you can see how that's sort of a precaution or a measure taken in light of the lesson of this fable. Now, if we look at this fable from the perspective of the lion, we find a little bit of a different moral lesson. Imagine the lion. He's merciful to this little mouse, this pathetic little mouse, one day, and he lets the mouse go. Not a big deal. The lion doesn't care about some little mouse. Like I said in that fable, it's not like lions eat mice, so it's not like the lion is giving up a meal or anything like that. It's just a little annoying mouse. He lets the mouse go and then finds himself in a serious dilemma when he's trapped in a hunter's net. And it says that the lion was roaring in the forest, and then all of a sudden, imagine the lion sees this little mouse come, wiggling out of the woods, as it were, climbs up onto the net and starts chewing through the rope of the net and sets the lion free. And you can imagine that the lion in this fable would think, what an interesting providence this is, that I just happen to be kind to this little mouse, and that mouse ends up saving my life. And so that the lion would have this happy memory with this little mouse, this happy memory of how he was saved by such an unexpected helper. And then he sees this mouse ask if he can court his daughter, the lioness. And the lion has to get a little giggle out of this mouse and his boldness. And I'm not sure if the lion knew that something like this might happen, or if he was just looking forward to some entertainment. I think that the lion was just hoping to be entertained when his daughter came out, and he shared the news with her that the mouse had asked if he might court her. I think the lion is to be understood to be doing this out of a sense of good humor. But unfortunately, when the lioness comes out, she heedlessly steps upon the mouse and kills him. And so again, the lesson through the eyes of the lion, I think, is similar, that he saw in this mouse a mouse that had good luck, but went too far and got him in trouble, even accidental trouble. Notice that the trouble was accidental. No one did anything wrong. The mouse really can't be blamed. The lioness certainly can't be blamed. I don't believe the lion can be blamed. It's just an accident that occurred, and the cause of this accident was getting carried away with success. So I believe it's very clear that the moral of this fable is to be careful of getting carried away by your success. It can lead you to make decisions that you regret. It can lead you to lose the success or the gains that you've made, and may, as in the case of this mouse, even be fatal in the most extreme situation. So why would Aesop choose the lion and the mouse? I think that's pretty clear. First of all, mice are small, annoying little creatures that have very little purpose in the world. It's hard for us to even know what they really do. Sometimes I refer to bugs and mice as God's cleanup crew, because the only thing they seem to do is go around picking up morsels of food. It's like they're a little cleanup crew that constantly cleans up. But they don't have much to do. They don't have many features that would cause them to be of interest to anyone. And yet in this case, in the fable of the lion and the mouse, it was the mouse's sharp little teeth that proved to be helpful. And so we see the mouse as this little useless kind of annoying creature that lives at the mercy of men and other beasts. The lion, now we know that mice are the natural enemies of cats, and that cats are predators that mice have to watch out for. But as I said, I'm really not sure that mice are afraid of lions, because I really don't know that a lion would pay any attention to a mouse. Lions can catch deer and horses and eat them. I don't think that they would chase a mouse. And so the lion, naturally speaking, isn't necessarily an enemy of a mouse, but is a huge, powerful, destructive animal that's kind of the largest and most powerful species of the animal, which is the mouse's enemy, the cat, belonging to the cat family. And this huge, powerful king of the jungle, king of the forest, saves the mouse's life, and they have this funny relationship where the mouse saves this big lion, and now this continuation of their silly relationship where the mouse asks to marry the lion's daughter. And it just shows that when, we've seen this topic before in the fables, that it's dangerous when, even when someone may be good-willed, there may be one person who is small and weak and another person who is big and powerful, and even though they both be goodwill, even though they both be willing to be friends, their partnership is a dangerous one, because the larger, stronger character can injure the smaller one even by accident, and it's not necessarily a good relationship for the little animal. And we learned a moral back when we studied the fable of the lion and the other animals hunting. Do you remember that fable? Where they agree to split up the results of their hunt, and then they finally catch a deer, and the lion says, "Nah, we're not going to split it. I'm going to keep it." And there's nothing that anyone else can do. It's just not always good for us to try to befriend people who are much more powerful than us, because it could cause us trouble. For example, if a man is very, very wealthy, he can do all kinds of things with his wealth, even make mistakes with his wealth and not really be affected by it. But if you were to join with him and you were not wealthy, you had just a little bit of money, and you were to join with him and partner in some endeavor, failure of that endeavor might be okay for him. He might be able to absorb the losses and get away with it, but it might destroy you. And that's why it's dangerous to associate with those who are stronger than us in any way. And so I think that's the reason why Aesop chose these characters, the lion and the mouse. So that's all for our study of the Fatal Courtship. I hope that's a helpful walk through this fable as we get a second look at this relationship between the lion and the mouse. Remember, I always tell you that these fables contain many, many different messages, and we can study them in more and more detail, think about them in different circumstances, and through our own eyes find moral lessons to be drawn from these fables. So if, in addition to what I've said, there are any things that you notice in this fable, or any ideas that you think that I didn't pay attention to, or simply didn't think about, I'd love to know about them. You can post them and share them on the forums, or when you complete your lesson assessment, include them in your answers to the questions. But as far as this video, I hope that's a helpful introduction to the fable titled The Fatal Courtship. I look forward to seeing your assessment work. Study this fable for mastery, get that assessment work done, and we'll continue our study of Aesop's fables. God bless your studies.